Oh, yeah.
Not too good, or we'll have to pay royalties on YouTube.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the December 8th, 2025 combined meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mrs. Williams.
Mrs. Fortier,
Here.
Mrs. Vecchi,
Here.
Mr. Kashani,
Here.
Mr. Augustine,
Here.
Mrs. Caffardi,
Here.
Mrs. DeLosa,
Here.
Mrs. Miller, Mr. Morset,
Here.
Mr. Weethorn.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Good evening, and thank you all for being here. As we welcome a new board and new leadership, I want to share a vision for how we'll move forward together. There will be changes in how we structure our discussions, how we reflect in real time, and how we align our work. Our guiding compass will be Pine-Richland's mission, vision, values, and strategic plan. Everything we do should reflect these principles and support the excellence of our educational programs. Meeting the needs of every student every day requires all of us, board members, staff, parents, and community partners, working together to build trust, engaging fully, and rising to the challenges of today. Through thoughtful, effective governance, we will keep learning at the center of every decision and continue building a school district that reflects the very best of Pine-Richland. Dr. Miller has a few remarks.
Yeah, thank you. From my perspective, we have one of the finest public school districts in the country. My view is supported by the evidence in the areas of academics, athletics, activities, arts. It's reinforced by our financial metrics, operational metrics, benchmark comparisons. It's reinforced by our annual stakeholder survey of staff, parents, and students. As a foundation, we have a community that values education. We have an incredible staff of teachers, administrators, support staff, and others in so many positions. Last Thursday at the academic achievement meeting, we had about 30 of those staff members present to share the results in terms of learning. At all levels, we have ownership in our students. We're committed to collaboration and committed to continuous improvement. For me, this is my 30th year in education, 13th as superintendent at Pine-Richland. Our senior leadership team can point to clear evidence of continuous improvement in each area of operations. Our MVV is served as our compass. Our strategic plan serves as our map. Organizational health matters. Leadership and governance matter. The two guiding concepts contained in Policy 011 and the DECIDE model we'll talk about later tonight serve as a foundation for our work together. In the back of the room, we've displayed an image of commencement. It captures our mission, vision, and values in one picture. It's a demonstration of educational excellence. In the stands at our stadium there for commencement, we see parents, grandparents, family, and friends in attendance, there to celebrate the milestone of their son or daughter. This is a demonstration of community value. We have 4,524 students in our district. Each of those students matter. Each student has different strengths, needs, and interests, and our vision is to focus on learning so that each student can pursue his or her path. It is why we exist. Thank you to all board members for your commitment to service. We have incredible strengths. We have opportunities for improvement. We look forward to celebrating success and striving for continuous improvement together. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 1.02, student and staff recognition. Mrs. Hassinger.
Two Pine-Richland Middle School teams placed in the History Bowl at the Heinz History Center on November 17th. Taking first place, scoring 98 out of 100, was the team of 8th graders Ariel Brotherson, Matthew DeVito, Ryan Mandel, Atharva Nagrath, and Lorelei Vernon. Placing third with 87 out of 100 was the team of 7th graders Natalia Lawrenson, Adeline Russler, and Avery Sudo. A team of Pine-Richland 7th and 8th grade students placed second in the Science Squad Judo Bot Rumble, held November 21st at Cayman Science Center. 8th graders Amelia Pozolak and Lorelei Vernon, and 7th graders Jaya Allen and Rowan Normando participated in the STEM-based event in which the team was tasked with building simple bots designed to push or grapple opponents using basic engineering and physics principles. Sophomore Logan Rich was named Student of the Month at A.W. Beatty for September-October in Emergency Response Technology. 3 students were named Student of the Month for October-November: Junior Jelani Matos Nunez for Cosmetology, Junior Tatiana Stadina for Culinary Arts, and Sophomore Elaine Kraft for Smartest. Juniors Amelia Doty and Piper Brooks, both advanced video students, took home a 3rd-place finish and $500 prize in the Westview Water Authority's 7th annual video photo contest. The contest challenged high school students and amateur filmmakers across its service area to create content educating the public on vital topics related to water, the environment, and school spirit. Their video is shared on the district news page for anyone who'd like to watch it. 15 student athletes participated in National Signing Day on November 12th, announcing their commitment to continue their athletic careers at the collegiate level. Those seniors included Shea Best, United States Naval Academy for soccer; Lily DeJesus, Duquesne University for soccer; Catherine Gentle, Virginia Tech for lacrosse; Jace Grilly, St. Vincent College for baseball; Ruth Hartzell, Westminster College for softball; Isabel Hoppy, University of Pittsburgh for volleyball; Serafina Giulio, Converse University for softball; Joseph Kamenicki, Teal College for baseball; Emmy Klein, Old Dominion University for soccer; Kaylin Kaler, Indiana University of Pennsylvania for field hockey; Doolin Stober, The Ohio State University for volleyball; Ella Tarasovich, Western University for ice hockey; Owen Thompson, Mount Aloysius College for golf; Riley White, Niagara University for soccer; and Tegan Urako, Delaware State University for triathlon. Additionally, 3 senior members of the football team participated in a signing day on December 3rd. John Curran is headed to the University of Pittsburgh, Braylon Price signed with William & Mary, and Jay Timmons will play for Ohio State. Senior Anna Merlack was named Field Hockey Player of the Year by the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and junior Claire Mill was named the Whippeal Field Hockey Offensive Player of the Year. The girls' volleyball team advanced to the PIAA 4A State Championship Final on November 15th. Students at Wexford Elementary raised $14,705.67 for the 2025 KDKA Turkey Fund, which works in partnership with the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank to distribute Thanksgiving meals to local families in need. Donations are matched by PNC. Each year, Wexford students are challenged to read as part of the school's Read to Feed program. Students pledge to read daily and track their books while asking family and friends to sponsor their reading via donations to benefit local families. Over the last 21 years, Wexford Elementary has raised over $500,000 for KDKA's Turkey Fund. For the 4th year in a row, Pine-Richland student art is on display at Pine Community Center. Through their in-depth program review, the art department developed a goal of connecting with the community to benefit both students and the art department. This year's selection represents K-8 student work in line and dot art, ceramics, blending, stippling, origami, and much more. Pieces will be on display through mid-January, and all members of the community are encouraged to stop by to see what our students have been working on this school year. And I have one more addition, which is not in the agenda because I didn't get all the details in time. We had high school student government partnered with all 6 schools last week to collect donations for Stuff-A-Bus. On Friday, they took 4 buses full of toys, buses donated by STA, over to the donation center, all of which will go for Toys to Tots.
Thank you, Mrs. Hassinger, for those recognitions. I have to say, I always look forward to starting our meetings this way because it reminds us of why we do this work. The opportunities our staff and students pursue are truly remarkable, and hearing the sheer volume as we do almost every meeting is really awesome. So thank you for that. All right, moving on to 1.03, recognition of visitors. We are grateful to have members of our community here tonight. Your participation and the diversity of your voices you bring are essential to the work we do, and we appreciate your willingness to engage with the board. As a reminder, our public comment period follows School Board Policy 903. Speakers are given 3 minutes to address the board. This time is intended for the board to listen. It is not a forum for dialogue or debate. When appropriate, the board and/or district administration may follow up with community members after the meeting, as long as the speaker clearly provided their contact information on the sign-in sheet. Tonight, we are also implementing a new process to help ensure that every speaker has an equal opportunity to be heard and that the board can remain fully engaged. Mrs. Williams will notify each speaker when their 3 minutes have expired and ask them to finish their thought. If a speaker continues after that first warning, Mrs. Williams will issue a second notice indicating that the time has been exceeded and the microphone will be turned off. Or if you're an online visitor, then the line will be turned off. There are timers on each of the screens, so visitors are encouraged to use that as well to track their time. This process helps us maintain fairness, consistency, and respect for everyone's time during public comment. Thank you again for your participation and for sharing your perspectives with the board. Mrs. Williams, do we have any visitors?
We do. We have two. Our first speaker is Steve Kutlenius.
Okay, well, good evening, Steve Kutlenius. First of all, I would like to congratulate Ashley and Melissa for being elected as president and vice president. And I also want to say thanks to Amy, Randy, and Liz for being elected as new board members. Looking forward to a good year. Tonight I want to speak briefly about what Pine-Richland experienced over the last 2 years and why it mirrors a national school board strategy now playing out across the country. Many people believe what happened here began with spontaneous local concern. But when we step back and look at the sequence of events, what occurred in Pine-Richland aligns almost step for step with national groups such as Moms for Liberty, Turning Point USA, and similar organizations, and how they are training their members. This has led to school boards going through long, emotional battles to change library policies based on claims of urgent danger. Yet after the policies pass, formal book challenges often disappear. Now this is not accidental. It is a known national strategy. In district after district, the same pattern appears. This strongly suggests that the true objective is not to remove specific books, but changing the rules of the system itself. And the policy itself is the goal. The policy itself is the goal. National groups have learned they do not need to ban many books if the policy itself already creates fear. Once a vague and restrictive policy is in place, librarians, teachers, administrators often self-censor to avoid conflict. This results in quiet, indirect censorship without any public challenges at all. Secondly, public challenges are politically risky. They create public records, they invite media scrutiny, and expose districts to civil rights lawsuits. After the policy passes, national guidance often shifts to just letting the policy quietly do its work. After that comes what the groups call incremental step-by-step change or seriatim strategy. First language, then policy, then pressure on people, and finally their ultimate goal, curriculum control. Pine-Richland clearly entered the policy phase, but voters stepped in and changed the direction of this board with the recent election. Now, how long will the new board take to reverse the prior board's policies, especially the library policy? I don't know, I'm thinking maybe what, 6, 7 weeks, maybe 6 or 7 months. Not sure, but whatever, I will be there to congratulate them. One final happy note. Today, I'm officially retiring my books banned, removed under Pine-Richland's new library policy. It has done its job. If you would like, I could donate it to the Pine-Richland School District Library as a reminder to future generations of our struggle to fight against book banning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Jen Buse.
Hello, Jennifer Buse. I live in Richland. I have 3 kids in the district, 2 in high school, 1 at Eaton Hall, and a 2023 grad, and I'm a taxpayer. I wanted to speak about the academic achievement meeting last week and I appreciate that Ashley spoke on it. It was so lovely to, celebrate all that our teachers and students have accomplished. And I am looking forward to a focus on, the students, every student, every day. I wanted to also say a quick appreciation to the high school administration and staff. I appreciate the accommodations that they are allowing for our son who has broken his ankle and is hard to get around, but he's doing well. And mention that the past grads day for the high school has been a thing for the last 4 years, I think. It's coming up on the 19th of December. And I'm really sad that our 2023 graduate can't make it, but it is such a delight. I am relieved that this board will highlight Board Policy 011, which our former board president neglected to sign. And I look forward to the board self-reflecting on governance each meeting. I'm interested in hearing from each board member on whether they intend to support the recommended millage increase and appreciate additional finance information that was provided in the joint finance meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's it.
Item number 1.04, correspondence. Mrs. Williams.
The following people emailed the board: Rebecca Hoffman regarding the behavior of the board president, Shelley Ranallo regarding the behavior of attendees at a board meeting, Therese Dawson thanking outgoing board members for their service and regarding public comment accountability, Amy Mathau to thank outgoing board members for their service and regarding board meeting etiquette, Ben Campbell regarding the passing of a prior high school employee, Christopher Hengler regarding Angel of Greenwood, Matt Evans regarding a strategic AI advisory board proposal, and Shauna Schenken regarding the school calendar.
Item 1.05, motion to approve the meeting minutes as attached.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Moving on to section strategic priorities. For continuing board members, you'll notice that the former strategic update section has now been reorganized in strategic priorities. I'd like to explain this change slightly, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Miller to go over 2.01. This change is intended to increase transparency and to help the publicly easily follow the board's major focus areas. We will now hold these discussions at the start of each meeting in a way to highlight their importance. This evening's conversation will provide a high-level overview for topics in this section. Some priorities will appear on every agenda, so they'll be reoccurring or standing, and others will be phased out as our work is complete. In general, this area is really to help ground us and make sure that that our actions are meeting our words. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Miller.
Okay, thank you. So item 2.01, again, we've talked about our mission, vision, values, which have been, I say, deepening in the district for well over a decade. That's our compass. Strategic plan is the map. The strategic plan reflects over 400 members of the community, plus the board, goes through board approval. It's really how we set direction and what our key initiatives are every year. So these will just be listed. We're not going to walk through each of them in each meeting. But we did think we could take a moment to highlight either the MVV or strategic plan in action to give a very practical example of how the compass and map actually happens in our schools. And so for the vision, we're going to start with an example of the Veterans Day assemblies that happened at 2 of our schools. Mrs. Hassinger.
Every year in all 6 of our schools, there is acknowledgement, recognition, and celebration of Veterans Day. So we have some pictures from 2 celebrations. This is from the high school. They alternate at the high school between doing an assembly for all students and a breakfast. So this year was the breakfast. This is breakfast with community veterans and our JROTC cadets. Entertainment was provided by members of the marching band, the orchestra, the women's ensemble. Cadets performed the flag folding ceremony. They did a remembrance table, and had some speakers. So a really nice event to bring in veterans with the students. And then at Hants, our students had the opportunity to invite a veteran that they know, a family member or family friend, to come in and have breakfast with them. So they were able to sit with mom, dad, grandparents, aunts and uncles, have a nice breakfast. And then the students who did not have somebody come in made posters and signs, and they lined the halls, and the students were able to walk through the halls with their veterans, show off their school, and show some appreciation for everybody who was there. So it was a really cute event.
Okay, so part of the vision, again, we see that the bookshelf at the top, which has students, staff, parents, community. One of the ways that that happens in school, that we can bring that community connection into the school and really expand the experience of the kids, is through something like that program. So that's the vision in action. Dr. Pasquinelli, we heard about the math in-depth program review, mini review last week. We also heard about an example of something that that group is focused on, which are the standards for mathematical practice as a part of the learning process, and then what ultimately will guide some recommendations in the future. So he's going to share example of some work that's been happening between the sessions.
Yeah, that's kind of the key idea we talked about last week at our AAGR meeting is because we went through the initial study around mathematics and we saw this on the horizon, now we're really integrating it into the classroom practice. So we shared this image with everybody last week. The key concept that overarching is around making sense of problems and persevering through them. And then this example was shared as what happens in a lot of math classrooms is students are faced with a problem and they're just looking to grab numbers and get to a solution as quickly as possible. And a lot of times not even thinking through, like, does this make sense? So that concept of struggle and problem solving is something that we're really working with our teachers. And the nice thing, again, is we're not waiting till the next meeting to continue the work. They're working between the meetings and working with our students and developing their skills at that time. So what I always like to stress, like, this isn't the new math. There isn't something strange or different happening. We still believe in the concept of the foundations of basic math facts. They have to be there. They're essential in order to free up students' thinking when they get into problem solving. But it helps students really understand the concepts around mathematics as opposed to just memorizing math facts, and that's what we're really trying to get at. So this is a slide is a kind of the best practices that happen. A couple of real-world examples happening in our school. So, this one here, the teacher was working through some problems with the students on conic sections. We all love conic sections, right? I mean, that's something we all love to do in our spare time. But what the cool thing is that she did is it wasn't, here's the step-by-step to solve equations involving conic sections. It was about students kind of collaborating and thinking through, how do certain things categorize? So on this image here, it's a little tough to see, but they're different graphs, and their job was to put them into different categories, but the meat of the work is to justify the why. Like, why are you grouping these certain graphs together? And then from there, she went to equations. Same thing, group these different equations into 3 different categories, but then most importantly, not a right or wrong answer at this point, but justify the why. And then finally, she helped them kind of put all the pieces together to match up the graph with the equations. That's very different than a traditional approach, which is to, here's step 1, 2, 3, plug and chug, and we're trying to get away from that. And then here's another example that, again, seeing more of this, the student collaboration and conversations happening in a math class. This is a geometry class where groups would start at a station, they would solve a problem, and then the solution to that problem would guide them to another station and kind of work through that. So the big takeaway for us is, and you heard a little bit last week at AAGR, we had a kindergarten teacher talking about the same thing with just introducing numbers to kindergarten students. So it's happening K through 12. That first example in conic sections was a pre-calculus class. So I just want to give you a little bit of the insight as to when we're doing these in-depth program review now lights, that it's not as in-depth as we did with the original study. It's more of getting deep into the integration, and that's what's happening now.
So, Mr. Stover, if you could pull board docs back up and just make it a hair bigger in the strategic plan component. Whoa. A little bit more. Okay, so again, where does the strategic, how does it live in our action? If we look at this, every year the board sees, typically in the late summer, early fall, what are the key strategic initiatives for the year? So we do a lot of things in any given year. What are the most important things? They're listed here. They were on that public agenda. But if you look at the third bullet, you see in-depth program, mini review math. This is a specific example of what we're doing within math to not only bring people together from across the schools, but to conduct the study, to look at the practices, and then ultimately, at the end of the year, that will come back in front of the board. We hear questions. We've spent a lot of time, as you know, on the first bullet there under the strategic plan, future-focused financial health. We've had the 4 joint governance meetings. Someone in our community might think that's all we're talking about, or that's all that we're focused on. It is not. So these are the key initiatives. There are more initiatives than this, but we do try to elevate what's most important. We have been bringing that to the board, the key initiatives, in a narrative form on a quarterly basis. But our hope is, within 10 minutes or less, we can make sure not only within the board to answer questions, but also communicating to our community those things that are happening in academic and other programs in the district. So welcome any questions on anything we talked about tonight. Thank you.
Right. Item number 2.02, Principle of Governance and Leadership with DECIDE Model Framework. Historically, during times of board transition, it is customary for us to revisit the local governance policies, which are the OOOs, particularly the 011 for us. These principles that are outlined in the 011 policy have, as far as I'm aware, have been something that has been a guiding principle for a long time for the board. The intention with this review is to embed the DECIDE model, which has long served previous boards as a framework for effective engagement and decision-making. Everyone can see in front of them they have the DECIDE model on a block. It's something that last year we even said that we would continue to work with and use as our framework. So for this, we plan on embedding it in this policy and then also including an attestation to reinforce our shared commitment to these principles. I'm going to just read the attestation aloud as it's written, and then I'm going to open the floor up for some discussion with board members. So the attestation reads, on an annual basis, Pine-Richland school directors will be asked to sign this policy expressing commitment to provide her or his best effort to honor the principles of governance and leadership in the operating framework outlined through the DECIDE model. A willingness to sign this policy is a condition of consideration for additional responsibilities, such as a subject area lead, but does not guarantee that assignment. For public transparency and accountability, the number of board members who sign annually will be reported on a public agenda. If a pattern of behavior is noted that does not align with these principles and framework, board leadership may reassign or remove any additional responsibilities. The intention of this policy is to strengthen cohesion in the critical functions of the school board. Are there any questions, reflections, or suggestions at this time?
I guess I'll go. I don't have any questions. I like the addition of the DECIDE. I do think it's important to, whether it's in workshops or in meetings like this, to really go through. Maybe the reflection parts of these meetings will help us call out moments where we did this correctly or not, and that's good. But just so I like that addition. Learning what that means is where the heavy lifting is. But I like it, and I do like Part 3 especially, I remember we talked in the prior board about adding something like that. So I like that, and we'll support it. And just a question for Matt, from a legal standpoint, the attestation, have you reviewed that?
It was orally reviewed with me by Dr.
Okay.
Miller, yes.
Okay, and it's kosher?
It's within the board's prerogative,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So-
Matt, are you aware of any other school districts where there's an attestation that's required to be signed by a board member in order to have a other position of leadership within the board?
None of the other districts that I work with have such a requirement.
Thank you.
I got a couple comments for you. If you look at the policy on lead responsibly, there's a key point in here. And before I even say this, I want to say that the 011 policy is important, and for us to have our guidance, the decide model absolutely is important, that we need to follow that. And the thing that I want to make point is that we follow it, okay? So when you look at lead responsibly, it says, work together with civility and cooperation, respecting that individuals hold different opinions and ideas. And I can tell you in the last board, there were a number of board members who are no longer here who did sign the document, who did not act with civility, called out board members, very discourteous to board members and so forth. And so that was very concerning. So when you think about that, and then you look at current board members who were on the podium side, were acting with a lack of civility too as well, there are assurances that that disposition won't carry over to this board. So we got to be very careful of this. Act ethically. Another good one there. Except when a board has made a decision, it is time to move forward collectively and constructively. I got to tell you, there was a number of times when some hard decisions were made by the board, and the board members did not move forward. They kept coming back trying to rework and redo things, and that's not acceptable. We have to make a decision and move on and move forward. And it's not bullying when you as a board make a decision and you get the majority vote and while we move on. That's not bullying. That's a decision made by the board and so forth. The other thing is on a decide model, decide the issue and move on. That didn't happen very much last time, and that needs to continue to move forward. So I am supportive of the decide model and support of 011. But we are not legally required to sign this. And when you think about it, what's it worth to sign it? Because people don't even act this way, didn't act this way in the board, that they signed it. People who didn't sign it acted professionally through this and didn't bully and go through it. Even though people didn't appreciate the opinion, it still meant that they followed policy and so forth. So I'm not sure if it's really worth the paper it's printed on. And when you think of other board members or other boards that don't have this type of policy, I just want you to seriously consider that action. All right, that's my comments.
Yeah, I have some concerns as well with the decide model being embedded in policy. Mostly the fact that I've been on this job for less than 7 days. I've never gone through the process of making a decision following this model, which seems it's a version of what would typically be the decide model. You know, this has a little bit of some differences in it that is unique to Pine-Richland, which, you know, may be very helpful to us. But I've never been through a process where this has been followed personally. I don't know if I've witnessed a process where this has been followed or not, because I've been on that side of the board. So some of the things that I witnessed obviously were not at all functional. So my question would be, was that the decide model being followed? Because if so, then it didn't work. And so the question I would have is, if we do embed this in the policy, does that then mean that this is the one and only tool that we have for approaching every single decision that we make? Because in my opinion, decisions may need to be approached with different tools depending on the makeup of the board and our individualism, our differing opinions, our differing communication styles. We haven't even found a way to communicate yet as a board. So asking to embed a 6-step process, which could very well just dissolve into a bureaucracy, if Mr. Morissette has experienced this model failing. Again, I have not, because I haven't been here. So would I support it? Possibly. If we are following this now in the process of deciding if we're going to support it, and that process works, then absolutely. But the question is, what does this process entail, and how does it play out on this board? As to the attestation, I support that wholly, but for the fact that, in my opinion, that needs to be signed publicly in a public meeting and reported in the public minutes. I've done the research. There are other school districts that have a roll call vote on this annually, where each board member is given an opportunity to speak and say why they may or may not be signing it, and then any signatures are recorded in the minutes. Another school district in Pennsylvania, Penn Cambria, they also hold a public meeting where they vote on it. They're each given an opportunity to speak. They then sign a singular document, which was provided by PSBA, and I understand that's a little bit different than what our Pine-Richland policy is, but it's similar. Each board member that wants to publicly ascribe to that signs that document. It is then posted as part of the public minutes and is readily available online for anyone that wants to find it. I found it. The School District of Philadelphia, on their website, they post right below each bio of a school board director a hyperlink which links you to their page indicating a signature or a lack thereof. I think that the purpose of this policy is for accountability. As an elected official, I'm accountable to myself and to the rest of the board, but also to students, teachers, staff, leaders, and community members. I don't feel that it is prudent to expect community members to seek information that they have a right to know through a right to know request. We should be alleviating the need for community members to find information. We should be elevating transparency and accountability, as well as giving each board member an opportunity to say why they may or may not sign this policy, so that it doesn't become a question in the community or a rumor or what have you. It's a board member having an opportunity to express their concerns publicly.
Is it okay? Okay. For me personally, as a new board member, I'd like to say thank you for this policy. Thank you for the additions to the policy. You're setting the expectation that you have of me as an elected member and contributor to the school. And I really appreciate that, because instead of coming in blind and not sure of what the expectation is, you are demonstrating it, putting it down in paper, and holding me accountable with that last part. The DECIDE model for me is the pathway to meeting those expectations. I see it as an opportunity to learn and grow as 9 board members, to debate, to talk, to understand everybody's perspective, and to make sure that we are meeting those expectations from the community, the school, the students, everybody who voted for us. So I am fully in support, and to Amy's point, I would also sign publicly. That's how much I support this. So I just want to say thanks.
Any other thoughts, suggestions? I do want to speak to Amy a little bit of what you said. I do think right now we are engaging in the discuss, debate the issue. I think, actions speak louder than words. And so I think as a board, us discussing this, us going through the process of what it looks like, you having your concerns, Mr. Morset having his concerns, I think hearing each other out, approaching it in a way that we all have a voice in this process if we so choose to do, going through the process, which if we come to somewhat of a feeling that we'd like to move to the next steps, and that's what's important about expressing how you feel, because then it indicates to leadership what comes next. So it will go through the process of a first read, a second read, and then the third read. So there will be ample opportunity for us to discuss, debate, engage, collaborate when needed and where needed. And then I know that not everything will necessarily follow this for this process, but having it there clearly and then attesting to it, I think is a good start, in my opinion, of holding ourselves accountable. This will be having this in the forefront of our meetings every single time, kind of reminds us of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and then at the end, having that reflection point will also hold us accountable. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying that I have not experienced it. And the concern I have, having not experienced it, or obviously having not experienced any, decision-making process yet with this board, it's unclear to me, as it's in this policy, if this is to be followed for every decision, period, or is this a suggestion as to how we approach decisions? For example, if the ski club is going on a field trip, do we need to apply the DECIDE model? Because that would then slow us down and add bureaucracy. If this is a model that we're going to apply when we're debating policy, things like that, absolutely, I have no issue with it, except for, as Mr. Morissette indicated, which was a little more about the governance, was it being used previously appropriately? And I know Dr. Miller can answer that, because again, I've witnessed it from the other side. So how do we follow this?
Yeah, so just this was probably 2018 was the first time it emerged. I would say that it's been followed closely and not at all at various points, over those years. It's not intended for what I would say is a routine matter. So it's not for the ski club. It's not for an item that's on a board, a routine item. Using the budgetary challenge as an example, so if we apply the DECIDE model to our budgetary deficit, if we were to go back last year and do that, so I'm talking a year ago, I would say that we followed the steps of this. There was a lot of discussion around the budget and the structural deficit. Certainly there was discussion and engagement across the team of 10 with all of SLT at various points with other speakers. We had community input. We talked about innovations or strategies. Ultimately, the board decided that was the budget for the current year. And again, I'm not sure that we elevated the people and occasions, but ultimately, I think those steps were followed. As we go into a new year, that's the same kind of approach we would take to a topic like that.
So I guess when I look at this, the thought that crosses my mind is that it might have been followed. It wasn't always followed by any number of people on this board previously. I was elected by a group of people in Region 3. I am their representative. I'm not going to be constrained or limited in my advocacy for those individuals. So I can tell you right now, I will not be signing the attestation, because I'm not going to hamper or limit myself by some model that would prohibit me or inhibit me from being an advocate for those who elected me.
Would you mind elaborating on how you think that it would? This is from a curiosity.
I don't know. but I'm not going to I don't know how it would constrain me. I don't know how it would benefit me, but I'm not going to sign off on something that has the potential to constrain my advocacy for those who elected me to sit in this seat. So
So is it more the decide model aspect, or is it the principles? Or is it the attestation?
Well, I don't think the decide model, we could go back and look at all the videos, but it was, on routine stuff, maybe it was followed, but in the heated debates, in the very contentious issues, I think it was ignored by any number of people. But nonetheless, I will be an advocate for those who elected me. Whether that fits within the decide model remains to be seen. But I'm not going to sign up on something that handcuffs me from being an advocate for those individuals. So you asked my position.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank
So
you.
is it helpful, because I struggled with this a little bit as well, as far as like in this new policy, there's the decide model, and then there's also the attestation to the principles of governance and leadership, which to me is like different things. So I think that's what Ashley was asking, like, is it the decide model that's causing you concerns?
I don't know what the circumstances are going to be or when they're going to arise or what the situation's going to be, but I'm not going to have someone hang this over my head and say, you're not following the decide model to whatever, cut off debate, cut off advocacy. I'm just not going to be subject to it.
Right, so that's what I'm asking. So it's kind of the decide model in there that's causing you concern.
Well, or signing off on the attestation that somehow limits me or prohibits me from being an advocate for those who elected me. I will take responsibility for how I conduct myself on this board. For the most part, I think I've done a pretty good, reasonable job of being respectful of those who have been on this board. We'll continue to strive to do the same. But on the other hand, I'm not going to have something box me in to keep me from expressing my views as we move through the next 2 years.
So it sounds like if there was a part of the new stuff that I could live without, is the part 2. So if from a policy standpoint, part 2, could be in there or not for me, if that's causing some hang up. Because it's really all the stuff before that, which speaks to behavior, that is more important for this policy. And I would agree with Mike. I think Mike, he's followed that behavior. The attestation, the reason why I'd like that in there, and when I remember way back when I asked Matt what would be a permissible consequence for not signing, because it was never a thing. We never had no one not sign it for the longest time. It wasn't even a thing until 4 years ago. So I asked Matt, what would be an acceptable consequence that might catch someone's attention and maybe look at this more closely, is whether or not if they're just not signing out of spite or not. So pulling someone from a subject matter lead is a sufficient enough consequence for me that I could support that. So that's why I like it. I don't think the spirit is not to handcuff you in any way to represent those that voted for you. At least that's not how I see it.
Yeah, I was just going to, having been here through, again, the same time period, the elements of the decide model, and this was not generated by me, this was generated by the then board and senior leadership team at a workshop kind of environment. The elements of what's in the decide model are the same concepts that are found above it in Policy 011. The purpose of organizing those elements in a way that's a little bit more useful as a tool is so that when we're facing something, and again, the budget is a perfect example, we can expect different viewpoints, strongly held beliefs, differences of opinion, differences in what people believe should or does not have to be in a public school system. All that's going to happen over the next 6 months as we go through this next budget cycle. Is a millage increase appropriate? Yes or no? If so, to what degree? What are the implications, short-term and long-term? We're going to have various people like we had in joint governance coming forward. So for me, The nice part about the DECIDE model is it takes these points that are organized under the PSBA policy language and gives us a way of almost looking in the mirror and saying, are we discussing it? Did we engage with each other? And it's sort of a yes, no. Not did we agree, but did we engage with each other? Did we, if the topic at hand requires other voices other than this group, did we collaborate with those who have expertise in that area to understand what the implications are if whatever action is taken? So again, the benefit from my perspective, having been here for a while, is it gives us something not to use as it's not to constrain at all. It's just to remind us to be able to look back together and talk about that. So, there have been topics that I've shared my professional view. The decision is different than that. That's okay. I mean, my responsibility is to be educated, to be informed, to share my best thinking with the board. The board ultimately will make a decision, and then the will of the board is implemented from that decision. So it's not a certain outcome that it's pointing to, but rather just a process to be used.
So I just want to add, I mean, you both brought up past board issues and how you feel that it wasn't followed, which I can agree, sitting on the other side, and understand and respect that. One, I would just ask, though, that you give this new board an opportunity to prove ourselves and show that maybe we're a slightly different group of individuals. But your points, to me, though, from my perspective, just indicate part 3 even more so. If individuals in the past have demonstrated not following this policy, then us considering part 3 and making it formal, all the more reason to hold future boards, including ourselves, accountable. The DECIDE model, I mean, look, we're already doing it, right? We're discussing, and this is great opportunity to learn your perspectives. And I'm all for hearing more about if the DECIDE model should stay in or come out. But I'm a little confused on the last part, based upon what the two of you said of previous board concerns not following this. I feel like that's exactly why we should sign it and why the last part of accountability should stay in there.
I agree with Melissa. I mean, my concern with part 3 was, as I said, making it more accountable in the sense that I want that information as to whether it's been signed or not signed to be public, and to have us as board members express why or why not we may have chosen what we chose to do. So that I'm all for, but I realize it does right now contain DECIDE model in it, which is why I was trying to figure out, like, is that the hold up to part 3 or not? That's unclear. But a question about the DECIDE model, because again, I haven't gone through it. So let's say that we are doing this, we've discussed, we've debated. Let's say that we are a couple steps in. Can you go backwards? Like, if something else comes up, can we go back to innovate and find solutions? Or are we going to be told, like, no, we've done that. We've moved on.
So my interpretation of this is it's not prescriptive. It's not like we're prescribing the DECIDE model and we must follow it and we must do. I see it as just a framework.
Right.
And when we need it, we use it. If we don't need it, we don't use it. If we want to go back, we go back. If we want to go forward, we go forward. There'll be times, there'll be places where we won't hit every single element. I think it's just really a way of taking these principles that sometimes seem heady, and how do you conceive that we do these every day? The DECIDE model kind of gives us that avenue to see it. And if it doesn't apply, like, we're the board. We can do that. We can work together. We can decide it as we go, literally, and say, this is the framework we're going to use. And when we use it, we use it. And when we don't, we can be flexible within it. I think it's just being aware of what, like, just like in the attestation, it's not saying we are committing to doing perfection or we're going to do it every single time. It's saying best effort. So I think even within the DECIDE model, we're going to have to do our best effort and whatever that may look like with whatever we're debating. Like you said, if we're talking about, a school-sponsored trip somewhere, we don't need to use the DECIDE model. I think we'll get a cadence, and we'll be able to see when we are using it and when we're not. And I don't think once we hit discuss, we can't go back. I mean, we will all the time, because when we do these different reads, just because we spoke about it tonight doesn't mean at the second read you couldn't come back with something completely different, or say, oh, my thinking's changed, or the process has changed what I thought, so now I'm coming back with this. So I think there's always opportunity to move up and down within that model.
Right, and that's what I'm looking for, since I don't have experience with it. So then in that instance, again, like, that's just more evidence that it would not then be a box or a constraint on our advocacy. It's just a guiding principle or a guiding framework that we're going to try to utilize to stay on task.
Yeah, and I think that's for Mr. Weethorn and Mr. Morset to decide for themselves, as far as how they feel it's going to do it.
Well,
we already have the DECIDE model. It's already, embedding it. I don't see what you gain by embedding it into a policy, one way or the other. Put it in, take it out. It doesn't matter. Because what you just described, Ms. Fortier, is it's happenstance whether you're going to follow it or not anyhow. So, I'm not sure I see a benefit of it. Maybe there's not a detriment, because it'll all depend on whatever as to whether we're going to follow it or not.
I think what I would not want to see happen is for members of this board to be unwilling to sign an attestation because of the DECIDE model, because there's so many more things, there's other things in there that are so much more important that I think we should be, making our best efforts to advocate earnestly, lead responsible, govern effectively, plan thoughtfully. All of these things are important. And so that's why I'm trying to get to the crux of, is it the DECIDE model that you would have issues with, or is it all of the other principles? Like, if the DECIDE model wasn't in that, would you have concerns with signing this? Okay.
I just wanted to offer that I think whether it's the DECIDE model by name or not, it's just really following what does a healthy group of individuals who are agreeing to come together and discuss an issue and make sure that everybody's voice is heard. That's what it's meant to represent. And to me, it's almost like a symbolic thing that the folks who are here at the table now are coming together and saying, I value everyone's voice. I want to hear from everyone, and I want our decision to be informed by that and to work together to the best of our ability. So it's really like, a promise to try to do our best rather than something that would be constraining in any way.
All right. Thank you. If anyone has suggestions, you can email Dr. Miller, myself, and just Dr. Miller and myself, and Mrs. Williams as well. And then we'll notify the full board of any suggestions prior to the meeting on the 12th. Thank you. All right. Item 2.03, Academic Achievement and Growth Annual Update. I'm going to hand this over to Dr. Justice and Dr. Prespinelli.
Okay, we'll do a brief update.
Yes, absolutely. So it's been mentioned multiple times tonight, but the Academic Achievement and Growth Report, also known as the AAGR, was held this past week. It's a celebration of the excellent results we've been getting across the district, and again, a thanks to those who spent the night with us in terms of staff members in attendance, principals, teachers, et cetera, to explain each of that. We have a target every year of trying to perform in the top decile, top 10% within Pennsylvania. That is a relative comparison group for us, given the achievement that we have, which is well above the state average each year. And we also want our students to be growing at least a year's worth. And we were able to meet the decile projections for every single grade level and content area. And there were only 2 areas where we're still working on that growth, and we're committed very much. While we're lifting up everything that we've done well as strengths, we know exactly where the opportunities are. They're called out in red font if you'd like to peruse the report and see them directly. But we've spent time focusing on all the solutions that we've already started to put in place place. Given the systems that we have and the people that carry them through, we're confident that we'll be able to monitor those throughout the year and make great strides. So if you have a chance, you can go back. We had several vignettes focused on math, science, and ELA specifically, but there's lots of work being done now, and we're going to keep at it.
Were you adding anything, Dr. P?
No.
Okay, so I wanted to just point at because the board had a chance to visit a number of schools. Hants was one of those schools, and to observe mathematics instruction. And following that, something happened that I thought was pretty cool, and that all of the classroom teachers in third grade and the special education teacher supporting third grade came into almost like a circle of chairs to have conversation with the boards during that visit. The collaboration that they have, not only within Hants, but what they talked about with Wexford and Richland, the role of the Academic Leadership Council, those are our department chairs, the degree of collaboration across not just grade levels, but the entire system at grade level. And then also what we heard from them is how many conversations they're having, productive conversations about second grade or first grade or fourth grade. And so that kind of, again, it's just the commitment of people. One of the results we lifted up on Thursday night was Keystone Biology. And again, one of the reasons that high school is a nice place to lift up isn't because it's the high school, but it's because the high school reflects K, 1, 2, 3, all of the stepping stones to get to that point. Biology Keystone results, top 1% in Pennsylvania. But the point that was emphasized by Mr. Cawley, by Dr. Pasquinelli on Thursday night, was the biology team of teachers. And for years, the effort that they've engaged with each other in order to share practices, look at data, do it on a faster cycle, not just the once a year standardized test, but through local common assessments in order to, again, to help kids learn and to see the degree of results. So again, just really good leadership by Dr. Justice, Dr. Pasquinelli, Dr. Paxan, Dr. Kazilla, our building administrators heavily engaged in departmental work. Our department chairs exist across all levels, heavily engaged in the planning and work, and then ultimately the implementation is by everybody. So again, results are great, the systems matter, but it's the people who are investing into those systems that are helping get where we are. It's awesome stuff.
Dr. Miller, I was there with the school visits with you, and I concur with your comments. It was very well received.
All right. Item number 2.04, budget and finance update with approach to close the deficit. Dr. Miller or Mr. Kashani?
Do you want to?
You can take it.
Okay. So we've had our series of 4 joint governance workshops. Earlier tonight, we had a finance meeting. It's mentioned later in tonight's agenda, so I think Mr. Kashani might touch upon it a little bit there as well. But ultimately, we've done a whole lot of foundation setting in terms of how we organize our schools, where and how many people we have, how those people deliver services, what our requirements are. This item, and so the work over that has been going on and that will continue is the work around closing the deficit and not or. What's on this particular slide, again, Mr. Stobener, if you could scroll up a bit so I could, yeah, right there is good, so that we can see this. Something different this year than for the last at least 13, 14 years is a little bit different timeline in order for the district to apply to PDE for special education exceptions. We're applying for special education exceptions because of the significant increase in cost of delivery of those services. Special ed costs are rising quickly, and that is mostly through people, but it's also through transportation, it's through tuition and out-of-district costs. So there are a number of drivers of special education cost. We have the ability to reach out to PDE after Mr. Jeswick completes a worksheet to determine whether we're eligible for an increase on top of the base index of Act 1. So base index is 3.5%. We have not qualified, maybe ever, for an adjusted index. Some school districts qualify for an adjusted index. We are not that district. But if we qualify with the special ed exceptions, it does not mean that they have to be utilized, but it does mean that we have an additional decision point to be able to talk about pros and cons and what's the impact of that. So,
Yeah, thank you. And I just wanted to add, Sean, can you pull up the attachment, closing the deficit? Thank you. So this slide was developed last year as we were talking about the budget that was approved. And it's important for those that, I know it's hard to attend every meeting and pay attention to every second of every minute of every hour that a meeting has, but there is a combination on the expenditure side and the revenue side that we are taking. The approach that we're taking involves, that's why it's an and, not an or. So in the prior meeting, it's easy to make broad statements about something that maybe you haven't been able to be firsthand witness to a meeting and listen to the conversation. But this slide is a good slide if you could just refer to this to know what are all the stones that we're turning over to decrease expenses and to increase revenue. So it's a nice slide.
yeah, I would just add one example on the expenditure side. I think last year at the end of the year, we were at 10.5 positions reduced through attrition. So those were positions in our teaching group. Those were positions in our support professionals. We're currently at 12.5 positions. So this is not something that we've just started. This is something that we have been doing. And again, some of these we can control differently than others, but they're almost written in order of magnitude. So the ones at the top have greater potential and cost more. They're bigger rocks in the jar, if you will. The further down we get, the smaller we get. To the very bottom, some of our areas like utility costs and transportation, they're going to increase, but our strategies are to try to reduce the amount they increase year over year. So again, there's not a lot of expenditure savings dollar for dollar, but there's expenditure savings when we look at reducing the slope of the line because of efficient practices and decisions that we're making.
And within this budget, as we started to create the budget for 26-27 outside of projections we had back in May, we are only looking at, expenditure-wise, a 3.6% increase over the entire operational budget at that point. So you can kind of see we've kept that increase pretty reasonable overall at that 3.6 with the way inflation has gone up and such. And with state revenues not even hitting our 1% mark, everything's very local, as we say, stagnant on the revenue.
Question on the timeline. So in the
Mr. Stover, can you pull up just board docs again?
Okay. So January preliminary budget on the 12th, 16 public notice, 9th we take action on that. Does that include projected revenue?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, but on March 5th, that's when we received the PDE ruling. So, we don't know what actually occurs. So you don't really have a good feel for how much revenue you're going to have. You got projections.
Well, I have projections.
But what happens if it doesn't come in? Suppose we don't get approved, and then we have other actions to take then, right?
Well, I think that's a good question, Phil. So we build it on a 3.5, which we know we can get if we approve it, not the 5.2.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, that helps. Okay. So those are the sure things. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
No problem.
Notice I said 5.2, not 4.2. Yeah, I remembered.
Anything else with this item? Okay. Item number 2.05, this is board goals and governance priorities. This is a new item that we're adding to the strategic priorities. This is kind of just a transparent way of letting the public know what our priorities are. This is just to introduce a concept. This will evolve over time. This is just something that lets anyone who wants to know what we're doing or where our priorities lay. It kind of reminds me, if you go back to item 2.01, and I think it was Dr. Justice had mentioned that, or maybe it was Dr. Miller, I'm sorry, that all of these things could be happening at once. Just because they're ranked does not mean that we can't do more than one at a time. And as they evolve, for example, the priority number 1 is onboarding. We have 4 new board members, making sure they're getting caught up to speed, they're getting the trainings that they need. But once that kind of exits the list, then it'll kind of move on, and there may be more things added, there may not be. But this is dynamic. This is something that we can discuss as a board. It is new, but it is something that will be here in this content. It'll be a standing agenda item. Just what's within it is going to evolve. So, any discussion or about these items?
So in some ways, Ashley, it sounds like it's like a rolling queue of priorities. And then who sets this list?
So this list gets set by leadership. It's similar to an agenda, but any board member could reach out and indicate that they would like something added, or if they want to have a discussion as to why something's on there, that's something we can do in public. So any of these items, if it's kind of just a lot of it may be doing what we're doing already throughout the year. I know I mentioned a cadence before. There will be a certain cadence that we follow of things that come up on our plate, such as budget and future focused finance. That's something that we're going to be doing already. The PDE comprehensive plan is on there as well. That's something that doesn't occur all the time, but it is occurring right now. So some of those things will, like I said, will be happening at the same time. But at any time, if anyone wants something or wants to see something on there, they can reach out to the leadership, which is myself, Melissa, Dr. Miller, and Mark. And so at any point, then we can discuss that in leadership and then bring it during this time, we can discuss it as well.
Okay, thanks.
So it is dynamic. It is not static, and it is not something that cannot be changed. Moving on to the consent agenda, item number 3.01, motion to approve the consent agenda items 3.02 through 3.08 listed below.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, and for finance, I'll kick it over to Mr. Kashani.
Okay, thank you. Item 4.01 is a motion to approve the financial reports dated October 31st, 2025, and to approve the accounts payable dated December 8th, 2025, in the amount of $32,505.33, and paid accounts for November, December in the amount of $2,259,735.64 as listed.
Second.
That's you still.
Oh, it's me still?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so all in favor?
Yes.
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 Any discussion?
Oh, any discussion? Oops. Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed?
All right, item 4.02, budget transfers. A motion to approve the budget transfers in the amount of $10,283.34.
Second?
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Item 4.03 is a discussion item, and this is what we touched on at the finance meeting previously. So we have an opportunity, according to Mr. Tony Masidi of PNC, this goes directly to the expense side of our budget. So we're able to reduce expenses potentially by refunding, especially the 2014 B series. That has more near-term potential, but 2015 is also a possibility. So think of it as refinancing your home mortgage to save interest expense on your payment. So to be able to be properly informed as a board to make that decision, we need PNC Bank to put together more information for us. So, which leads to the next item. Before I do that, though, any discussion on that? Further discussion? Nope. Okay. So item 4.04 is a motion to approve. Hold on. Come on, board docs. Oh, it's not a motion. I'm sorry. It's further discussion. We'll approve it at the next meeting in January. Yeah, Dr. Miller.
Yeah, I was just going to add, so these two go together.
Yeah.
Again, it's sort of like pre-approval. If the bond
Yeah.
meets the parameters that the board has set to be a worthy refinancing,
Yeah.
then they have what they need to move forward.
One of the things that, on the 2014 series especially, just to give everyone a feel for how close we are. So when the net present value savings of the refunding can hit a 3% target, that's historically when the district has decided to take advantage of those savings. Right now, the series of 2014B is at 1.7%. If we did it today, it would be at 1.7% savings. So you want to try to get that full 3% savings. So we're almost there. Another Fed rate cut could help, and a couple more after that could help with the 2015 as well. So we're going to look at both, see which one, if any, makes sense.
A quick question. How long is this good for? Like, if we indicate, like, how long do they have that authority?
That's a great question. Dr. Mel, you know that answer?
That's I could follow up
Yeah.
with Mr. Massini
I want
on
to
that.
say,
You got to step out.
don't hold me to it. I think it's like 6 months. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's a while. So would
Yeah.
be my technical answer. It's a while.
It's months, not weeks or days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I can double check on that.
Yep. Thank you. Good question. Okay, and then item 4.05 is just further review. We did talk about bond refundings in the finance meeting, which preceded this meeting. We also talked about the timeline for the potential of getting another 1.7% if we need it in a millage increase. I would say that the one thing I referenced in the prior meeting I wanted to just spend just a minute on right now, especially for the newer board members. The holdovers have seen this before. So there is an attachment in public content. It's actually the first one. It's titled Revenue Impact of 2017 Millage Increase, updated by MDC and CJ. That's me and Chris. And if you pull that up, and actually, Chris, I just noticed that we could update the 2024-25 column with actuals now. I think they're still projected. They're projecteds in there. But just a fine point. So not to belabor this, but just to call your attention to a few things. So we specifically, as a board, agreed to increase by 1.97% the millage in the 2017-2018 budget. And that was specifically for, if you look at that sort of middle yellow row, it was specifically for capital repairs, replacements to equipment, infrastructure, facilities, in other words, our assets. So we made the decision to raise money because we had this 10-year capital funding need to repair, replace, improve our buildings, our assets. And rather than take on more debt, because we had not only just the natural organic growth, which was also going to be used to help, but we needed a little bit more to help save money to pay for all those capital repairs. So the row above that is the amount of tax revenue specifically attributed to that 1.97% increase. So since that budget year through the 25-26 year, we've collected an additional $11 million in revenue to pay for our capital improvements. Now, if you go to the row, let's see, 1, 2, 3 rows down, that is it's the wider row that's labeled current year capital projects paid for by the transfers to capital projects. That's what we've spent on capital improvements all in. So we've spent almost, 49 million, 11 million specifically was due to the tax increase. So you can see that we've had healthy revenue growth organically, and that also, some of that has also been used to support our capital improvements. So now, the only other row, and Dr. Miller, then anyone else too can chime in. So then, how much do we have left? What need do we have left to our assets? And that's in that final full row, total capital repairs, 26, 27 through 30, 31. We still have 25 million left of a need to repair and replace and maintain our buildings. The breakout by year is in that shorter row underneath that. You can see the CapEx expense from 26 all the way through 30 in that shorter row. Dr. Miller?
I was just going to add, I mean, that's all history and accurate. The debt percent of budget back at that time also was a factor. It was well above 10%. It was 14%, I think, back in 2013. So debt as a percentage of operating budget was also higher. So there was also the goal of gradually reducing debt as a percentage of budget. As Mr. Kashani said, our capital projects were around $3 million or so a year, give or take. We also knew, though, even back then, we were heading towards where we are now. Where we are now is about $8 million, again, give or take, in capital projects, because we knew the big projects of roofs and HVAC systems were happening at a number of buildings. So again, back then, the issue was a capital one. And we see how it went exactly to what it was intended for. Our issue now is an operational one. So it is a different issue that we're facing, and that's based on
Yeah,
the
that's
change.
great, and that was just the last point I wanted to make too. So that's capital, but then the actual deficit that we've been talking about is just straight up revenue and expenses and the delta therein. We're not making enough money to pay for our expenses. So then you might say, logically say, well, then your expenses are too high. And that's where the other side of the equation comes into play, which I just wanted to touch on, because you look at the academic growth report. That's, for me, as I'm just speaking for myself here and just personally, I look at that report and I can say since 2012, since September of 2012, when my kids were 7 years old and 3, and I started on this board, and now they're 21 and 18, and my son especially is thriving, and he attributes his preparedness to his education that he got here. And so I'm happy as a parent. I'm happy with where my kids are and what I've seen from them. Am I happy with everything? No. Are there things that I would change? Yes. But I would label that, I would label myself as a pleased parent, a pleased taxpayer, and a pleased community member here. And so I would label that as, not that there's always not room for improvement, but we've aspired to excellence, we've achieved excellence, there's still room to go, and I don't want to disrupt that trend. So if I did, I would then support, if I did want to disrupt that trend, I would then support stuff like furloughs right now, and do more extreme measures in the expense cutting. I think we can, like Dr. Miller and his team always has, I think we can continue to be prudent and good stewards of the expense side, while we are limited in what we're able to do on the revenue side. And I'll say it one more time, I would have supported I did support last year's 2.1% increase that did not pass. I will support one increase in a millage rate because I feel like it's warranted, and because I don't want to disrupt that path we're on. Now, outside that one, I can't say I'll support more, because I would like to be able to work within whatever that gives us. If we're if we continue to be, as prudent as we have been and look into our crystal ball, I know it's an art more than a science sometimes, but that's the challenge that I would issue to Dr. Miller. Okay, so I think, I think that covers the meeting and some additional color. And Ms. Fortier, I'll throw back to you.
Thank you. All right. Buildings and grounds, item 5.01. Motion to approve the advertisement of bids for the roof project at Wexford Elementary School as attached.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Not discussion, but
Mrs.
Mr.
Fortier,
Zimmer.
this is Jeff Zimmerman.
Perfect.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, hi. I'd just like to make a couple statements here, just for the benefit of the new board members. So I know this is a large purchase. Some of the new board members might not be familiar with it, but Wexford Elementary roof is 27 years old. It was identified in our capital funding plan for several years. It's been on there. We've been working towards this date for a long time. Early this spring, the board approved Florida Consulting to be our architect and engineer to design the roof replacement and put together all the documents for a competitive bid process. And that's where we're at right now. So with the board's approval tonight, the bid will go out in the advertisements to two newspapers. It'll be advertised for 3 weeks. And then a bid opening will happen on the 7th of January. So that's a different date than was provided to you at the last board meeting. It went from the 5th of January to the 7th. And that was because we have a 10-day waiting period after the last advertisement posted in the Post-Gazette. So bid opening on the 7th of January. The facilities department and the administration will get together and put together our recommendation, which will be to you before the 12th, on January 12th board meeting, which will be an information item, and then you'll have another full month before the next board meeting to make your decision either to accept or reject those bids. So that is always on the table, that the bids can be accepted or they can be rejected. So that bid process will go out, we'll provide our recommendation, and that money has been in the capital budget for a while. Any questions on that, I can answer that. We do have a construction window between the 6th of June and August 14th of next summer of 26. And so we're anticipating getting some good numbers and having a great project.
Any questions from anyone? Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second,
Yep.
so, yep.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries.
In one update, the resolution will go out a calendar year
Oh,
for the debt parameters.
okay. Thank you.
Oh,
The bond
the
refunding,
bond
yeah.
counseling.
Yes.
Yeah. We knew what you thought.
That's real-time answer from Mr.
Yeah.
Massetti, or did you find it on? Okay, that was great.
Mr. Massetti.
Thank you.
That just came out of left field, though, Chris. You got to put it in context.
All right. All right, moving on to academic achievement. Item number 6.01, motion to approve the library book list for Wexford Elementary, Eden Hall Upper Elementary, and Pine-Richland High School as attached.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6.02, motion to approve the college and high school agreements as attached.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'll share just a little update on that for everybody.
Please.
So again, we have been talking about these courses for a bit of time, but as we kind of work through the process, this isn't a request for approval of the course yet. We will ask for that in January at our program of studies presentation. These are the agreements that we've been working with RMU and Point Park to support these two college and high school courses. So this is a good example of in-depth program review. So we don't make recommendations from courses until we do that full study and really understand the potential impact of people, time, and money with recommendations like this. We're looking for trends in fields as we study each of those departments, and these two courses, or these three courses, came out of those studies, one for engineering and technology and the other one for business and computer science. The other part of this is tied to the strategic plan, so there's recommendations to provide additional opportunities for our students to engage in college and high school experiences while they're in high school. That allows them to earn some college credits while they are still here, at a savings for the students and the families. So the agreements we've been talking about, we did share with our solicitor for some feedback. They are a request for approval from you tonight.
Question, Dr. P, on this.
Yep.
Do we have a cost associated with this program? I think I heard you say you haven't got that yet. I just want to make sure you don't have a cost associated with these.
They are listed for the course, so these are costs for individual students that would take the course. The RMU cost is $250 per student.
Okay.
And Point Park is $225. If we get over 10 students at Point Park, it drops down to $150. But they're earning then college credit as a result of that, which again is a nice cost savings to students and families. No additional cost for
That's the family cost, not the district cost.
That's the families, yeah.
That's the family
correct.
cost.
Do we have the district cost?
There's no cost for these agreements. Now, we do, the next item on the agenda, there are some costs in terms of resources to support the courses, but there's no cost in terms of the partnership.
Just express a couple of concerns. We're looking at a $4.9 million deficit. And as far as these courses are concerned, I mean, I'm sure they're wonderful. So I'm not concerned about the validity of them or the effectiveness of them, or I'm sure they're great courses. But when we are in a situation where we're trying to balance a budget with a $4.9 million deficit, we're talking about a maximum tax increase, then I think we just need to take a hard look and say, is this prudent to be adding additional expense in the current circumstances? Number two on this is that when we're eliminating classes, and I'm sure nobody here at this point in time knows what teachers will retire in the spring and what that's going to look like. But I do recall last year going through an extensive process that as teachers retired, we reevaluated the staff. You guys did a great job of reevaluating who could cover what courses. And if we are adding courses, we're taking away flexibility come spring when there'll be some retirements, there'll be some attrition. And when we go to reevaluate who can cover what and do we need to hire new teachers, this adding additional courses at this time takes away from that flexibility. So those are my concerns.
Yeah, a couple things, just for clarity. And we'd have this in the table. So with any of these additions, there are reductions of courses as well. And that's one of the things we're thinking through is the impact of people, time, and money that go into making these recommendations. So where there's an add, there's a subtract. We're looking at our departments of both business and engineering tech to know that we can maintain and, bring these courses in without the need for addition of staff.
I appreciate that. Thank you. However, we're eliminating Photoshop 5 and advanced video production. So I would assume that because they're subject to removal, that there's an analysis behind that they don't provide the value, or there's not enrollment, or whatever the rationale may be. And what I'm suggesting is that maybe those courses get eliminated without the addition of additional courses to maintain some flexibility come spring when there are retirements and you're trying to figure out what teachers are going to cover what classes and go through that exercise. In this environment, when we have $3, $4, $5 million excess dollars year over year, then adding this stuff is a no-brainer. But that's not the environment we're in. So I will be concerned about what the additional cost is, but also are we handcuffing ourselves to make prudent decisions come April, May?
Yeah, and again, I think I won't say the same thing he said. We appreciate, understand the questions, concerns. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than we hear you. Even in the in-depth program review process, recommendations don't come forward, even out of that process, unless they have really been vetted. What is the impact? We use a little image of ripple effects because with any decision there are ripple effects. When it comes to our staffing process in the spring, and as Mr. Glickman has talked about and we'll talk about again in April of this year, we have course requests in departments that right now and have had that exceed at times our ability to provide those courses. We don't use the highest year ever of a particular department or course request to then make staffing decisions to increase. We do work with the principals to understand what the requests are to balance the available teaching periods with the courses that are requested by students, and then to deliver the very best of what we can within that ceiling or limit of personnel. As we go into, there are always going to be, and this is not only true last year, it's true this year, it's going to be true next year. There are a lot of variables happening. Refreshing certain courses, we believe to be a critical part of our overall sort of foundation and mission. It is not likely, again, we feel comfortable saying that we're going to stay the same, or if circumstances dictate, we would have to look at positions as we have told you we've done, before and will continue to do. But we would say that we certainly aren't adding people because of this. We're just reshifting where those people are assigned based on the master schedule. And again, I think it's critical as we look at our overall program that, like courses that emerge in this example, not only is the course experience good, but it is a value to the community as well, as students not only have that experience, but our families are saving money in the future. So,
in
Chris?
terms of the expenditures with the resources, Dr. P and I have been working very closely on that, and there are other things that we don't need to renew, or we're moving or pushing out or extending, so that we can come in hopefully under what we've been in the past and still allow this to happen. So we're making priority decisions in order to ensure that that excellence piece continues. And I think you've heard the staffing piece pretty clearly, but the one element of that hasn't been discussed yet is that individuals have certifications in particular areas. So the last thing we would also want is to remove courses and then have staff underutilized if we're also having that commitment to not furlough individuals, because there wouldn't necessarily be another place to put them. And students, we have the same number of kids, and they'd prefer to take courses within business computer science.
Yeah, that was the only part I was thinking about, Mike, is the subtract without an add. The reality is students still have graduation requirements, so they're going to go somewhere to take an elective course. So it's a matter of where, and then, as Dr. Miller mentioned, with FCS, as an example, we have so many requests that we max that out without adding staff. They move to a different set of electives. So we're going to need, if we're going to subtract, that add is an important part. And again, the robust nature of our program of studies is something that's attractive to our student body for sure.
But there was a part of something Mike said I want to just maybe try to ask it a different way, in reference to sort of us handcuffing ourselves because we're doing this. Are any of the teachers that would be affected by this close to retirement or possibly being able to retire?
That would be potentially teaching these courses now.
No.
Okay.
He answered more quickly due to my hesitation. We're not yet at that place where where people have indicated retirements. We certainly have a general understanding of ballpark where people are, but we look at all of that information. We're not doing anything to constrain future decisions. We are exceptionally mindful of how decisions balance and what they look at.
Okay.
So we
But
feel
that's what I heard.
Yeah,
in my
and that's why we
question.
responded to
Yeah.
him, as we did.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. That's why I started by saying these are good questions and they should be fully considered. I guess the point I'm trying to make is the level of detail and thought that goes into this is significant. So when we go back to the closing the budget and not or slide, you saw things on that slide that said text resources on expenditure reduction. That's what Dr. J just said. Text resources are being expended. If you see in the next item an expense for resources, there are budgets for resources is a part of what we do. But there are many other decisions being made to reduce the overall line to balance that with our other competing interests. So there's a million things going on to try to have an excellent program, education excellence, and still community value.
I do have a comment, but I think, did you have a comment, Mr. Stobener?
I was just going to add, talking about expenses, one of the things that you'll see in probably several months from now would be a replacement of the computer lab, and that will directly support one of those the programs there. But that lab is also used in the engineering AutoCAD programs. It's used for multiple purposes as well. So later on, the engineering PRTV studio, as we call it, will be recommended in next year's budget, but that's an expense that we would have for the engineering program is also run out of that room as well as others. So we make sure that those expenses overlap. It's not just the computer lab for the TV studio program. There's other things that run with that as well.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I mean, I understand Mr. Weethorn's position. I just wanted to say with regard to these courses in particular, like as Dr. Miller said, when we're looking at maintaining educational excellence, these courses are an outstanding opportunity for our students and for our families. The cost savings of that, a college and high school course, is tremendous. So I would be disappointed to hear that classes such as this, which help maintain educational excellence while providing significant cost savings to our families, would go by the wayside because of budgetary issues.
So let me respond to that. The cost savings that you're speaking of is cost savings to individual families who are able to get college credits on a discount. That's correct? Correct.
Yeah, that's the cost savings to the families that I'm
but
referring to.
it still costs the district something to put those courses on, and that's on the back of the taxpayers. And that's that. And we are in a deficit situation where we're upside down $5 million. So I appreciate I'm not arguing whether or not they're a good idea, but somebody's got to pay the bill. And, with the taxpayers are looking at a tax increase so that specific families can save a few bucks on college credits, I don't know that that's fair to the taxpayers.
Well, I don't think that's a fair representation of my comment either. I mean, these families are taxpayers. Let's just put that out there. And the fact that the savings to them would be far, far, far more than the savings of the, $20 we were talking about under the last proposal tax increase. Listen, I wasn't on the board. I didn't get us in this spot. I'm just saying that these particular classes are not ones that I would want to see sacrificed because of the spot that we're in.
Well, at some point, you got to live within your means. At some point, there's a finite sum of money that's available, and you got to run a district. So at some point, you got to make hard decisions, and maybe it's not these classes, but those decisions are coming, when you speak about $20, I can tell you that this past fall, I knocked on a lot of doors. I'm sure you did. And you come over to Region 3, and you knock on those doors where you have senior citizens who have lived here for 40 and 50 years on fixed income who are having a hard time making ends meet. So, consideration needs to be given to the taxpayers as well.
So, do you mind if I? Yeah. So, the first thing I'd say is I think this is exactly the kind of thing that we should be talking about. So I think what we're talking about and how we're talking about it is exactly what we should be talking about in these meetings. Professionally, this is an extremely cost-effective way to improve the course offerings in these departments without adding cost to the district. It is shifting cost over to these courses from other things. I'm going to use a different example, but I think these examples apply to a lot of the discussion about courses or the program of studies. We had a planetarium built in the school district when the high school was originally constructed in 1993. With equipment to support the delivery of that class. That class is a science class earning science credit. There was an initial outlay for the cost of the projector in order to support instruction in that area, and that projector lasted the district for all the way up until the last year when it was replaced. Students, and again, that class is used every available period over the course of the day, and is an excellent science experience for the students who are in there. There was question about that during a time when we have an operational issue. Should we make a capital investment when we have an operational concern? And again, that was discussed between and amongst the board. There were different perspectives shared at that time. But from a personnel standpoint, if students weren't in class with those science teachers, they would be in science class with other science teachers. From a personnel standpoint, it's the same kind of a thing. If we didn't invest in the capital investment of the projector to support learning, we would be investing in science materials of more of a consumable nature, because in any of our science classes, from the materials they use to the beakers, to the lab equipment, to everything else, there is a cost for science equipment no matter what science class you're sitting in. So again, these are tough because you look at the price tag, let's say, of refreshing the projector in the planetarium. Should we do that? If we could get the same kind of 30-year investment out of that resource that we did originally in '93, it's a huge benefit to our community and a reasonable cost. So again, I'm not trying to compare apples and oranges. I'm saying we've got all sorts of fruits to compare as we think of the underlying point you're making. We agree. We understand. We're not starting making tough decisions as we go forward, or recommendations in our case. We're just recommending what we believe to be best and providing the rationale for that. We're doing it thoughtfully. We have been making the difficult decision of attrition. We've been making it across groups where retirement or resignation exists, and we've committed to the board that we're going to continue to do that. That is being felt right now. The impact of the decisions we're making right now will continue to be felt as time goes on. That's the harder part of the crystal ball. We know what the immediate impact of not replacing a person is, but it's what is the sort of the lagging impact of that decision. Those are the kind of things that we're going to be trying to figure out as well.
So I'll just follow up on that, because you raised the issue of the planetarium, and whether you recall or not, I was a no vote on that too. And that was a $400,000 expense. And I appreciate the fact that if kids don't take astronomy, they've got to take another science class. But I don't know all the nitty-gritty or the details behind those science classes, but I find it hard to believe that there would be a $400,000 expenditure in order to support those other classes. And when I look at academic excellence and I look across the Commonwealth, maybe there's 30 high schools in the entire Commonwealth that have a planetarium. So other districts are clearly delivering academic excellence without a planetarium. And my position at that time, that it was a want to and not a have to. And we got a lot, there's a big numbers to be faced here as we move forward. And I think we need to take a hard look at the want tos and the have tos.
Yeah, and I think that's right. And I think I don't know that we want to belabor it more. I mean, I'm happy to discuss it. The closing the deficit and not or, I guess the question is, when we look at science consumable supplies for 8 classes of students all day long every year, we're not comparing 400,000 to a year's worth of those supplies, but we are doing a delta between what's 30 years worth of science consumable supplies that would be utilized if we don't see any change in personnel costs, because if it's not this science teacher, it's that science teacher. So 30 years of consumables, I don't know what that number is. I mean, I'm not going to try to guess at one, but it isn't small. And the reality of what we're talking about, again, is a matter of perspective. And so again, back at the time, I understand and appreciate your position on that. It's fair. That's the whole point of the process, is to talk about that stuff. And then the board as a whole weighed in. The decision was made. And so, again, we're moving on with that.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to spend a lot more on planetarium either, but I think it's good for, again, especially new board members, when we bring those recommendations forward, we do a lot of study and work around what's out there, and we look at the range of options. So we looked at everything from a $56,000 replacement, which again, it doesn't do anything in terms of the experience for our kids and the learning opportunities in there. And there were $1.1 million options. We ended up with something around, $385 to $400, as Mr. Weethorn mentioned, that we feel, again, meets and, again, enhances the experience from the past in a popular course. So again, we always do our due diligence in thinking about, how we're spending money in terms of supporting then the learning experiences for our kids at the same time. And that kind of will transition into the next agenda item too.
All right, since we had a motion and a second, all in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to 6.03, which Dr. Pasquinelli previewed.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, you're good.
This is an informational item, but again, important for us to talk through because it aligns very tightly with what we were just talking about. So these are renewal items or recommendations for resources to support the curriculum of these particular courses. So in the top section there, we outline the 3 courses that we're recommending, this 2 CHS that we just talked about, and the AP Music Theory course. There are costs associated in terms of resources, but you can see we're really mindful of how we're spending the money. In the past, we would do a 1-to-1, meaning a 1 hard copy to 1 electronic digital. We have shifted that to class sets of hard copies because some of our students too need and value that turn-the-page experience with learning. But the digital provides some flexibility for learning, and they have some different ways to get at it. And again, you can see the cost. So for example, let's use the 2 we just talked about, the CHS Info Tech. That's a $5,547 over 6 years for the cost of those resources to support the students in that course. Yes?
I just want to make sure that I understand. So it's not per year for 6 years. It's over the
That's for
span of
6
years.
over 6 years, right.
Okay, thank you.
Right, and the same thing for the cybersecurity. That's now some companies we always ask for 8 years in terms of these agreements, and some companies will not offer that. That's why you see the difference between the 8 and the 6. So the 8-year there for cybersecurity, that's $5,551 over that 8-year time period. So those are the new courses. These are estimates, so please understand that this is something new that we had not done in the past. We're doing our best to give you a good idea. We're still working through the evaluation process, but we have had board members in the past ask for these updates, and we're trying to provide those. The second section is AP Bio and AP Physics. Those, of course, are courses we already offer, but those resources have come to end of life in terms of copyright. There are some requirements through the College Board of updating resources after a period of time. So we want to maintain those same resources in terms of the vendors that we're using, but these are some modifications in terms of the updated copyright for those. So you can see again the estimated cost for those courses. AP Bio, we range around 70 requests per year. AP Physics, we're in the 30 to 40 requests per year for that particular course. And then the last section, again, this is the work that we're really trying to do. Dr. Justice mentioned this a couple minutes ago, that we're working hard to figure out how do we save the district money, because you need the resources to support the learning goals within the curriculum. So these are all resources that they have expired in terms of the original agreement that we had with them, but we are able to keep the hard copy. So we have solid hard copy resources that are still in the hands of students, but we want to extend the digital options for our kids and families as well. And that ensures that the digital experience aligns with the hard copy experience. When they don't, it's tough to teach and learn in that environment. So again, we've worked with these vendors to extend. Now, these are per year for each of the ones that are in that table, to give you an idea, but that allows us to avoid the full evaluation, which would increase the cost for purchasing an entirely new resource. The one in particular we have to call out is the K-5 MyMath. That is something that we have 1 year only that's left with that particular company. They will not offer that resource again. Again, timing's perfect, because next year, where we'll have this resource, if it's approved, we will also be studying and evaluating the K-5 resources and then bringing that forward to the board and community as a recommendation into the end of next year. That will be a sizable request because that's K through 5. That's a lot of students that we're supporting. So again, hopefully that gives you an idea how mindful we are of the cost associated with supporting these courses, but we need the resources to support them. And then the last section down at the bottom talks about the tentative timeline. So you can see where we are here, November, December. We provided the cost estimates, again, estimates. We're going to do round 2 evaluations in January, so we'll have the top 2 vendors that will have our team of administrators and teachers evaluating. We'll bring our top 2 copies of resources to our board for your review in February, and then we go into community input and the 30-day display in the spring, and then would bring forward a final recommendation in the spring for any of these purchases. So this is all informational. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Dr. Pasquinelli, the 6-year and 8-year, is that cost spread out across the 6 years and the 8 years, or is it a one-time upfront payment?
We have typically paid them one time upfront, but we
okay.
have worked with vendors recently to see if we can spread them out over time, and that's something, depending on the vendor, we may be able to do.
Yeah. Mr. Jeswick, it would be a good idea to categorize something like this as a one-time spend and just kind of make a footnote of this as a one-time spend as opposed to an ongoing.
Yeah, we put, last year we actually put a large spreadsheet together, which is helping us build multiple years within this, so we know what resources are built out, say 5 years, or which ones are yearly subscriptions, and then which ones are, say, a one-time hit.
Yeah, one-time hit, which you won't see this again for another 6 or 8 years. Right. So categorizing that would
for
be good
those
to know.
courses,
Yeah,
but
so-
there may be other one-time hits that sort of replace it as time goes on.
Each department has renewal cycles, and we've talked about this before, and what
Oh,
Dr. P was
okay, I
just
understand
saying,
what you're
you know,
saying.
like the My Math resource, the vendor is discontinuing it, so it will not be supported beyond this 1 year. We're able to extend it, we'll have to do that, but then in the background, we'll have ELA, music, you know, pick your content area. Those are all on some cycle. Every year we're purchasing something. It has been, you know, around 800,000 the last few years. We're trying to bring that down into the next budget cycle.
Okay.
With the resources, the expenditures are laddered to the resource, or to the refresh cycles.
I just have a question. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding. So the K to 5 My Math, this 1 year expense we have to pay.
Yes.
Correct? Yes.
Yeah, to keep the resources, right?
Okay. And then after that, we need to get new resources.
Yeah,
So this
so-
won't last, that resource has to be replaced?
This gets us through
Yeah.
next year, and while we're using this in its final year, we'll be looking with the teachers. We have a whole robust resource review process,
Yeah.
and we'll be going through that to see what else is out there that will meet our needs, and we'll bring that to you on a similar timeline, and then hopefully that we'll be able to do on some sort of contract that will be multi-year, hopefully spread out again if the vendors are willing to work with us. Sometimes when we spread it out, the overall cost increases. If you pay upfront, you can usually get them at a lower, so we work all those angles.
The two biggies are ELA elementary and math elementary. These are the two sort of foundational programs that have the greatest cost and greatest impact
Every
on number
student.
of teachers and kids.
Yeah, and then just to add, it aligns nicely with the mini in-depth program review, since that's math right now. So then that kind of
Yes, that helps us understand what our criteria are when we're looking for a resource. We'll have a better vision of where we're heading
Right,
with
yeah,
programming.
okay. I mean, it's just not numbers that I'm used to, but you guys are probably like, yeah, this is totally, or I'm looking at it like, why is that, what is that? Why is that so big? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Tell them.
And just for context, ELA is bigger. So when that time.
Is that a number just for this year that they quoted us? Or like, do they like know we have no option, so they're just like taking advantage of us? This is what it feels like.
Which number are you talking
The
about?
77062 for My Math. Tell them we're going to go with, our math.
Well, the problem is, we haven't evaluated anything new, so we're
I don't know that I think
He's
he may
joking.
only be
Yes.
tongue-in-cheek here, so
Farce.
let's not respond, if that's all right.
How'd you know?
It's a fair and reasonable number to extend 1 year, which is very helpful for our teachers and kids.
It's a diplomatic way to say it.
All right, moving on to student services. Item number 7.01, motion to approve the translation memorandum of understanding with the AIU for the 2025-2026 school year as attached.
Second.
Discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item number 7.02, motion to approve the student attendance and application of the Student Discipline Code for the Pine-Richland High School wrestlers to travel to Alverton, PA to participate in the Southmoreland Holiday Classic Wrestling Tournament from Monday, December 29th, 2025 to Tuesday, December 30th, 2025, as described on the attached field trip request form.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7.03, motion to approve the student attendance and application of the Student Discipline Code for the Pine-Richland High School wrestlers to travel to Burgettstown, PA to participate in the Burgettstown Wrestling Tournament from Friday, January 9th, 2026 to Saturday, January 10th, 2026, as described on the attached field trip request form.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, this is a discussion and information item. Item number 7.04. It's for board consideration at the January combined meeting to motion to approve the attached letter of agreement with Watson Institute. Any additional information?
This is to support a student. Are there any questions about this? Okay.
All right. Okay, moving on to 7.05, the Air Force Junior ROTC Summer Trip of 2026. This is just a discussion information item for board consideration at the January combined meeting. Motion to approve the student attendance and application of the Student Discipline Code for the Air Force Junior ROTC students to travel to England, France, Germany, and Belgium, as described on the attached field trip request form. Okay. Item number 7.06, this is a discussion and information item about the establishment of the Pine-Richland Middle School Baking Club. All right. Moving on to staff services, we have item number 8.01, motion to approve the PREA, PRESPA personnel and athletic, non-athletic supplementals as attached.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Now moving on to operational services, we have item number 9.01, motion to approve the 2026-2027 academic calendar as attached. I would like to ask Dr. Miller to kind of speak to how the calendar is made, what kind of considerations, especially for the new boards and also to the new board members, and also to remind community members, because I know this is of interest to most people.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, again, a lot goes into the calendar. I would say that what you have in front of you is relatively historically consistent. It's school districts maintain similarities year over year because they're tied into so many ways that the district operates. If anything, I would say we have been creeping a hair earlier into August. This calendar reflects sort of moving back a hair, again, not a lot, but starting just a little bit later in August. We think that's beneficial from the standpoint of we'll also have the HVAC projects hopefully finishing at Richland and at Wexford. Phase 2 of that work is happening this summer. When we develop the calendar, we do it in collaboration with PREA leadership, ESPA leadership. We engage our principals because we're looking at testing calendars. We have to consider compensation plans for various workforce groups because of how the holidays are structured. We're trying to find balance amongst the 4 9-week grading periods. We have pieces like clerical days and other components that are put around the 9 weeks grading period. So there's a lot of different things that move into this. There was discussion in this process about where we finish in June, I would say that our starting point and our ending point are pretty consistent with schools in this region. That does matter because in addition to our Pine-Richland schools, we have A.W. Beatty, which is shared among school districts. We have tons of private and parochial schools that operate on calendars similar and historically consistent. So there's just a lot of things tied into this. In order to finish in the same approximate time in early June, we do have to make some moves. So there's some days removed from within that were holidays. I mean, that's the way that goes. So winter break is, I would say, traditional. We have a little bit fewer days in what is the springtime break in this calendar, but you can't. There is give and take with any calendar. We feel very good that this reflects balance. We do know that more and more from our high school, more and more students who graduate are starting their collegiate experience a bit earlier, so they might take courses in the summer that start in that time frame. So again, all of that goes into what we have.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions?
I just have a question, just an observation. I don't recall graduation being it's always on a Friday. This one's showing Thursday.
Yeah, what we talked about is to provide a little more flexibility for us. This past year, we ran into some weather concerns, and so we wanted to advertise this early on, that it provides a little more of that flexibility for a Thursday or a Friday, as opposed to then getting into a Saturday or the following week. We heard a lot from families that becomes problematic because they're scheduling and they have other things. We get into graduation parties on that Saturday. We were able to hold it this year Saturday morning. It seemed to work out for the most part. It's just something that we wanted to provide a little more flexibility for us.
Did you look into the probabilities of rains on
I did,
Thursday
yeah, I
versus
did.
Friday?
Farmer's Almanac was consulted.
I did, thank you.
All right,
Thank you for asking.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you, Mike.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, with that, all in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on to item number 9.02. This is a motion to approve the application for Act 80 exception days as outlined for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
I'll just take one quick second to explain
Sure.
what this is for those of us who are new. So we are required to have school a certain number of days and or hours. So it became an or recently in 23-24. It used to be that you needed to have 180 days plus either 450 hours for kindergarten, 900 for elementary, or 990 for secondary students in a given school year. So Act 80 tells us that's what we need to do. Now we can have days or hours, which gave us some flexibility, but if you've met us, we have systems and we like backup plans. So we have flexible instructional days that we have approval for through the state, and then by utilizing an exceptions request through Act 80, we're also able to count our in-service days, parent-teacher conferences, things like that, as credit for those hours and days. So with your approval tonight, I would be submitting that to the state, and that would just allow us like a plan B, C, take your pick in that lineup of if something would happen. We always prioritize the instruction. We like to be able to have those days. We can hold it virtually if we need to, things like that. But Act 80 allows us to meet our requirements without any additional pressures.
So it's a regular approval. We don't often have to use it.
Correct.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9.03. This is the discussion information item, and I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Stoviner.
Thanks. This is something that's been under works for a while now, but with the new board. For those of you that have attended events here at the secondary campus, cell phone service is a challenge generally. You add a lot of people on campus and it becomes even worse. So we've been working with SmartLink. SmartLink is a vendor that works primarily with Verizon, but also with AT&T and T-Mobile to construct a cellular tower on top of one of our light posts, which will greatly boost the cellular service in this region, not just for the secondary campus, but will have further reaching aspects. In addition to that, it's beneficial to the district. There's revenue generating opportunities for the lease aspect of it. And overall, it's been a good partnership, and we're excited for this to continue to move forward. So this will be something that the board will eventually be asked to act on, and the details are being finalized as we speak. There's a variety of guidance from the federal FDA, FCC, and all those other approval processes after the local approval with the township goes through. So it's something that we're hoping to have under development and potentially breaking ground as soon as graduation commences. So.
I'll just add, just based on what you said, so they would actually be constructing one of the poles would be a new pole. It would be engineered and constructed to be able to manage the additional weight. So they're not adding something on top of an existing light standard. They are actually constructing a new standard. The lights that are currently on that standard would be put back onto the new one, and then appropriate distances above, where they would add up to 3 arrays for the 3 companies that Sean mentioned. Again, communication benefit, safety benefit. On our closing the deficit and not or slide, when we see cellular tower, there is a revenue benefit to the district as well.
So, Dr. Miller, and I know I've asked this question before, presumably the due diligence has been done relative, and I don't know if it's valid or not, but that we've done the due diligence relative to any adverse health effects relative to this stuff?
Yes. So all of the standards either meet or exceed all safety standards provided. So there's very stringent regulations around this. It's been thoroughly studied, and they're going above or beyond any requirements for any of the RF.
And I think we shared that information with you through weekly updates. There was emails from Mrs. Williams.
And we've also added that proposed language in the agreement that should there be more stringent standards, that they would be required to comply with those as well.
Thanks. And just public information.
Any other discussion or questions?
Just a last comment. So again, Township of Pine, that's at the Planning Commission, I believe, right now, and so they and or their next step. So we have responsibilities only after Pine has theirs, but the way this is all fitting, it might actually turn out to be on similar nights. So we're working just to coordinate all of those. Again, any approval by our board would be contingent on all sorts of things, and I've placed information in my update about that. So assuming all of the I's are dotted and T's and crossed, then that's where the approval sits.
All right, moving on to board business, we have Mrs. Vecchi.
All right, so I'm going to quote Ashley real quick. As she said earlier, our actions are meeting our words. So in reflection of Policy 011 and the DECIDE model to guide and collect the approach to effective governance, at the conclusion of each meeting, the board will take a moment to reflect on the meeting. This reflection will provide the opportunity to demonstrate role model behavior and continuous improvement. It will provide an opportunity to elevate behavioral consistent with the identified norms. It will also provide an opportunity to focus on the needed areas of improvement. The reflection will be guided by a general question. Did we engage together in this meeting in a manner that consists with the principles of governance in the DECIDE model? And did we spend the majority of the time focused on substantive topics related to the mission, value, and vision and strategic plan? And I would only comment that I really feel we demonstrated that today earlier between the coursework discussion and the financial, as well as the DECIDE model in 011. So I think as a new board, we're already starting to demonstrate some of these behaviors, and I look forward to continuing to work with you all.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Vecchi.
So I have a comment on that.
Oh, sure.
Is that all the comments going to be at the end of these meetings? Something
No.
like that?
Well, the intention is to do this every meeting. Tonight was just kind of a conceptual, but if you'd like to join in the discussion, that'd be wonderful.
No, my only discussion is I've never really heard about this in any boards that I've been involved, or global programs that I've been involved in, program offices and so forth, that there's always been something towards the end of, not the end of a meeting, but the end of a procedure or something like that. And as far as I'm concerned, at this stage of the game, board business is completed. My fiduciary requirements are done as an elected official, so I may not want to engage in this, and I may say that's the end of the meeting for me. That would be my prerogative.
Follow-on question, it says, did we engage together in this meeting? Did we spend the time, the majority of the board focused? Who's going to be the arbiter of this? Yeah, who's going to make that decision?
It would be all of us collectively, just having a reflection.
Yeah.
That's all.
I'm not ready for reflection.
I echo Phil's comments.
I would just add that I sit on other boards and I have experienced this. It gives me and others an opportunity to just recap, revisit what we've achieved as a group. I think sometimes that we focus so much on the initiatives and just passing things along that we forget about all the milestones that got us there. And I think this is an excellent way for us to reflect on those milestones, to discuss. If I do something during a meeting or outside of meeting and you want to bring it to my attention, I am more than willing to hear. And I think this just opens the door for that. So, I mean, I hope you two will maybe come around and engage with us, but I'm very much looking forward to it and just seeing how we can continue to work together.
I wish you well.
Thanks.
Very good.
All right. Moving on to meeting closing. Item number 11.01. Are there any reports tonight? Okay. As seeing no reports, we'll move on to item number 11.02, which is recognition of visitors. The same conditions apply from earlier today. Mrs. Williams, do we have any visitors?
We do. We have 4 in person and 1 online. So we'll start with Ann Myers.
Hi, Ann Myers, Richland Township, 1 student, 5th grader in the district. First, I want to say, Mark, thank you for your work as treasurer. You really do an outstanding job. It's so detailed. I really appreciate how you collaborate with admin as well, so thank you for that. I want to talk about the band concert that was last week, and while my daughter's trumpet didn't work for most of the songs because she had put the valves in the wrong places, I thought it was absolutely incredible. The highlight for me was the marching band at the end, and I just thought it was such a cool way to showcase future band opportunities for the younger kids. My daughter and her friends came home discussing their future in jazz band, which she may unfortunately learn that means she has to practice. The academic achievement meeting last week, that was also amazing to have attended. It was such a nice reminder of how much our district has accomplished, and I'm so excited to see what can be accomplished with a supportive board. The way that the teachers in the district are able to educate all the students at such a high level and educate students at an individual level is really amazing to me, and I would like to highlight one of my daughter's teachers this year, Mr. Connor. As Mrs. Kindersmith previously mentioned, he wrote a personal note for every single one of his students. And my daughter was so proud of hers that she printed it out and it still hangs on our fridge. On several other occasions, he has sent her an email with us included, giving her positive feedback on homework when she's accomplished something new. And I also learned that because he knows her and he's paying attention to how she learns, he lets her work at her own pace in math. And he reached out to me to see how I felt about changing that and how she might respond to that. And I really appreciated that because she can be kind of a tricky kid. And I also want to mention that when we were reviewing the high school ELA curriculum, I added all those books to my Libby app. And my most recent read was Brave New World, which I'm not sure I ever read in high school. And And it was not my favorite of the more than 200 books I read this year, but it did make me very interested in knowing how the students would explore it. That made me actually more excited about the book as a whole, and I think that speaks to how a teacher uses, it frames the curriculum around any given book can make the students more excited about that text.
Your 3 minutes
Thank
have
you.
expired. If you could finish, thank you. Our next speaker is online, Kathleen Ravati. Hello, Ms. Ravati? Hello? Oh, okay. Okay, we'll go to our next speaker, Mike Barber.
What's happening, Pine-Richland? Mike Barber. Just want to say thank you for the new board members for running, for being willing to put in the hours. I really appreciate it. I want to send a special thank you to Ms. Caffardi and Ms. Vecchi for stepping up. I think you two are going to be exceptional representatives for Region 2. At the very least, you're going to engage with the community, and you're not going to roughshod the board with seriatim rules to shut down any discussions. It's nice knowing that I don't have to come to the meeting and think that my representative from Region 2 is going to go off in some personal political attempt to do whatever she was doing. So it's a relief, and I can't say thank you enough. Dr. Miller, your leadership is always appreciated, demonstrated tonight. Anybody that volunteers within the schools sees the ripple effect that your leadership has, so thank you. Dr. P and Dr. J, it's nice to see you back up there. It's nice to see you not hampered in the discussions when you want to jump in and participate. It's nice to have a president allow you to participate in discussions. Ms. Fortier, thank you for being the tip of the spear for this moment. We've talked immensely for years. And I meant what I said when we first met, and I look forward to you bringing competency back to the presidency. I look forward to you elevating our professionals' voices, and then just on the budget discussion, something, because I also knocked a lot of doors in order to topple Ms. Brusalis. And so one of the things that came up from not many, but from some of my community members was the exception for the Social Security. It's $500 a year. He's not 65 years old, my neighbor. But he is on Social Security, and he's not being given that exception. So maybe look at it as, instead of it being an age problem, if you're on Social Security, you should be eligible for that exception. I got you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rebecca Hoffman.
Hi, my name's Rebecca Hoffman. I have 4 kids still in the district and a 5th one who is going to come home for that past grad day that we were talking about. I didn't come here tonight planning to speak, but while I was listening, I felt myself compelled to address one thing. I'm going to read what I wrote down so that I can be responsible with my words. I was disappointed and honestly uncomfortable listening to Mr. Weathorn talk about acting on behalf of only those who voted for him. Certainly, he can conceive of his role however he wants. But as a parent, my expectation is that campaigning is about motivating voters, but once a board member is elected, it is their job to be conscientious of the needs of every student. It makes me sad as a mother to think of a school board director working against the needs of any students. It makes me angry to hear an adult in a position of leadership in a public school theatrically standing firm in support of a political position, even if that's harmful to particular students in the district. Perhaps it seems foolish for me to expect better from this person, yet his righteousness still shocked me. And I want him to hear me say that vulnerable students need protection more than some adults who filled in a bubble next to his name 2 years ago. Thank you.
That is our last speaker.
Thank you very much. The board will meet in executive session on December 15th, 2025 to discuss matters including litigation, a bargaining unit, and evaluation of the superintendent. With no objection, I will move to adjourn the meeting. All right, the meeting's adjourned.